Friends, I want to talk with you today about something very serious and unfolding right in front of us. Israel is currently locked in battles with several nations at the same time. The tension in the region is growing instead of calming down, and the latest updates show how dangerous the situation has become. Reports confirm that Israel has carried out an airstrike in Yemen, and as a result, Yemen's Prime Minister has been killed. Now think about that for a moment. A sitting Prime Minister of a nation has just been taken out in the middle of this conflict. That is not a small development. It is a turning point, a signal that what many were hoping might ease or settle down is in fact escalating to another level. When we look at these events, it is not just about one country striking another. It is about what happens when the whole Middle East starts heating up at once. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu himself confirmed in a government meeting just yesterday that things are not going to quiet down. Instead, he said they will get worse in the days ahead. And if we are paying attention, those words should wake us up. This reminds me of the words written long ago in the Bible where it speaks about the last days. The scriptures tell us there will be wars and rumors of wars. Nations will rise against nations and kingdoms against kingdoms. When we see headlines like this, when we hear leaders warning that conflicts are going to deepen, it becomes harder and harder to ignore the fact that prophecy is lining up with our current reality. What is happening in Israel, Yemen, and across the region is not just another news story or political squabble. These are moments where the divine calendar is moving forward. Prophecies that were written thousands of years ago are starting to take shape right before our eyes. It is like puzzle pieces falling into place, one event after another, and together they form a bigger picture that we cannot afford to ignore. The death of Yemen's leader, for example, is not just a military act, it is also a prophetic sign. Yemen is not just another small nation on the map. It sits in a very strategic location near the Red Sea, an area that has always carried deep significance both politically and biblically. If you look back at ancient biblical narratives, Yemen and its surrounding regions have played important roles in the unfolding of history. For this reason, what happens there has meaning beyond the immediate. And so, when Yemen's Prime Minister is struck down in the middle of this storm, it signals that the balance of power in the region is shifting. And whenever the balance shifts in the Middle East, it is never a small matter. The Middle East has been the center of global attention for centuries because what happens there often affects the entire world. Oil, trade routes, religion, and geopolitics all converge there. A change in leadership or alliances in that region has global consequences. The Bible itself tells us that when one nation falls, another rises to take its place, and when kingdoms collapse, they are replaced by forces preparing the stage for even greater powers to step forward. So, when you hear of a leader like Yemen's Prime Minister being taken out, understand that it is not just about Yemen, it is about the wider prophetic stage being set. The prophet Ezekiel wrote clearly about a coalition of nations that would one day rise against Israel in the latter times. He described a gathering of forces coming together in opposition to God's chosen nation. And if we stop and look around us, we cannot deny that we are witnessing the early formation of such coalitions right now. Look at the nations involved. Iran has been hostile toward Israel for decades. Syria remains deeply entangled in conflict with Israel. Lebanon, through groups like Hezbollah, stands openly against Israel. And now even Yemen is drawn into the conflict in a way that signals alignment against Israel. Do you see the picture? Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, all pointing in the same direction. Piece by piece, the prophetic puzzle is fitting together. This is why we cannot simply treat this as another cycle of unrest in the Middle East. This is something bigger. This is something that carries eternal weight. And what does this mean for you and me today? It means we must live with a sense of readiness. It means we cannot be casual or careless about what we are witnessing. These are not times for spiritual sleep or indifference. These are times to be alert, awake, and grounded in the truth of God's Word. When Prime Minister Netanyahu says that things are going to get worse, we should not dismiss that as mere political talk. We should see it as confirmation that what the Bible foretold thousands of years ago is unfolding in real time. Every missile fired, Every airstrike carried out, and every new alliance formed in that region is like another trumpet blast, declaring that the hour is late and the return of Christ is nearer than ever. Friends, this is why the news about Yemen's Prime Minister cannot be taken as just another headline. This is why we cannot shrug our shoulders and say, well, the Middle East has always been in conflict. No, this is different. This is accelerating. Events are piling up faster and faster. Prophecy is not slowing down, it is picking up speed right before our eyes. Think of it this way. Every strike, every fallen leader, every new coalition is like another page being turned in a book that has already been written. We are simply watching the story unfold, and it is the story that God Himself declared long ago. So what should our response be? We must not fall into fear. Fear is not the goal here. Awareness, readiness, and faith are the goals. The Bible tells us not to be afraid when we hear of wars and rumors of wars, because these things must take place. Instead, we are called to lift our eyes, to be people of prayer, and to remain firmly rooted in God's truth. Let me put it plainly. The death of Yemen's Prime Minister is not an isolated incident. It is not just a random act of war. It is part of a pattern. It is part of a prophetic chain of events that leads to something far greater than any single nation, leader, or battle. And so I urge you, do not be distracted by the noise of the world. Do not allow yourself to drift into spiritual laziness. Now is not the time to sleep. Now is the time to watch carefully, to pray fervently, and to stay anchored in God's promises. Remember, prophecy is a gift to us. It is not meant to scare us, but to prepare us. God has already told us what would happen, so that when we see it, we will know that His word is true and His plan is unfolding. This should build our faith, not weaken it. So as you hear more updates in the days ahead, as you see alliances forming and conflicts deepening, remind yourself that none of this is taking God by surprise. The same God who spoke through Ezekiel, through Daniel, through the prophets, and through Jesus Himself is still in control today. The same God who declared the end from the beginning is guiding history exactly where it needs to go. And you, my friends, have a choice in this moment. Will you watch these events with fear, or will you watch them with faith? Will you allow the chaos of the headlines to consume you, or will you let them drive you deeper into prayer and trust in God's plan? Because one thing is certain, prophecy is not slowing down. It is moving faster and faster, and each event is one step closer to the ultimate fulfillment. We are not called to hide or despair. We are called to be ready. So I close with this encouragement. Stay awake, stay prayerful, and stay rooted in the truth. These are not ordinary days. These are prophetic days. And in times like these, the most important thing we can do is hold tightly to God's word, live faithfully, and keep our eyes fixed on Him. God bless you.